Hello students, this is the third video in our series on the introduction game for Godot, the Dodge the Creeps. Now in video 2 I actually probably finished that a little bit early because we only have a tiny bit left in this section entitled Preparing for Collisions to do with setting up our player code. So this video is just going to be to quickly finish that off, and then video 4 will pick up with a more detailed video from there. So we finished off having done the process function. So this is the function that runs every time the screen essentially updates, or the computer ticks over a new frame in our game. And this is dealing with all our input, and it's working out the velocity, how our character's moving and so forth. And here we are just setting up the last bit, which is to prepare for our player to be able to collide with other things. So first thing we need to do is create something called a signal. Now signals is the way that Godot sends messages essentially from one scene to another, or one node to another. You can find them here. So again, if I've got my player node selected, I'm normally in Inspector. Sorry, I was just in the wrong spot before. And next to it, you can see there is a node tab, and the nodes are basically signals that this can send out. So the Area 2D has a lot of signals, that it already can send messages for, but we are setting up our own one, and we do that with this command here. So the very top, you'll see I've already put it in. It has to go underneath our extends option. So it's basically saying, hey, that this player is going to create a signal using that keyword, and the signal is going to be called hit. So we can send that message out, and if we look at our node, then you'll see that we have that as an option here. Okay, and that's all explained in this part just here. We're then going to set up that we can actually respond to the body entered. So if a body enters this, we can respond to it. So again, we do that by coming to the node section, going down the Area 2D until we find the body entered, and we can double click on that. That's going to ask us where we want the method or the function that is going to respond to this to be. So for body enters, where is it? Okay, we'll just go connect for now, and what that's going to do is create a function within this script that we're in, because that's where we're told to go. And you can see a little icon here that says this is connected to a signal. We can see that again if we go back into our nodes in a moment. We'll be able to see that. There we go, and we can see that the on body has been connected to a function that we can see down here. So from there, we're going to replace the on body entered values with the code that's in here. So I'm just going to copy this in this case because I don't want to lose any of it. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to replace the pass option with what should be there, and fix up my errors. Now, one thing I've also found easier if I'm having these spacing issues is just to backspace it to the start or the end of the previous line, press enter, and 99% of the time it'll set it up the way it should be, because it knows how it should be laid out, and that's what it's doing there. Okay. So this function is now going to run whenever it enters a body, and that is going to first of all hide the player. It's going to send out or emit that hit signal that we just created. So this player is going to send out a signal to the rest of Godot to say, hey, we have hit something essentially, and things that know how to respond to that will then be able to deal with that. And we're also going to temporarily disable our collision shape, and that's talked a little bit about up the top here in this note, basically so that we don't keep regenerating this entered situation. Otherwise we're going to keep sending off the signal over and over again. So that's just a way to stop that from happening. We've got one last script that it wants us to create, and it's just this function here. So again, I'm going to copy this function, and we're just going to place it below the one we just created, and it's just a function that we called start, and it's going to take in an argument called pos, which is going to be the position that we want our player to start from. And we use this just to show the player, and also to disable the disabled collision shape, so basically to re-enable it. So we're saying, is it disabled? well, that's false, so that's essentially turning it back on. We're not using it yet, but that's going to be called when we start the game in a little bit. So that brings us to the end of this particular section on setting up our player. So we did most of this in video 2 from the top here, coding the player, and we're just finishing off these last couple of functions down the bottom. We'll spend a little bit more time going over this in class, and I might add a little bit more information in video 4 about this one as well.